Hi, Kylie here and welcome to my plan with me for October. So this month is new journal month. Yeah, look, it's one of those months. I finished my last journal at September. There was still a few pages, but not enough to really do October. So I decided I would start my new one. And that means that there is 2.5 minutes of this that is basically set up, which really, when you think about it, is not that long. I find that every time I create a new journal, I end up having fewer admin pages at the beginning than I did the previous time. And part of that is just because I just find I don't use things as much as I probably should. And I think it probably gets worse when I start sort of in the middle of a year. But anyway, we'll leave that be. I've changed the way that I'm doing my future log. I've changed the layout. I was going through looking at different layouts for my weekly layout and came up with this sort of monthly one, sort of found that in Pinterest and went, oh, I really like that as a layout. So I haven't drawn up an annual calendar, which is what I'd normally do at the front of a bullet journal. Instead, I've got this, which has, still 12 months of dates. And yeah, that should be enough to capture, planning ahead and capturing all those different bits and pieces. Then got space for my 3 words for 2024, which of course it's not 2024, so I don't have those yet, so that's empty space. And also my goals, which I normally don't share with you all anyway, but maybe I should. But you're going to see a little bit of advanced stuff. This page is for me to basically do this, which is in my current bullet journal. I want to do a page of quotes. I'm not quite sure what the quotes are going to centre on for 2024 because that sort of depends a little bit on what my 3 words are. So I'm just leaving it blank. That will be something else I do in January. I like having this thing to track my sort of skills development and self-development. I probably don't do actually track it well enough, but I'm still putting it in because I think it's important and I will try to use it properly. And then I'm actually putting in a space now for my personal projects because they seem to just fall by the wayside. I get too caught up in client projects, but also when I do have some spare time, it's like I don't think about what I could be working on effectively. So that's a space that I'm going to be tracking those to hopefully make it a little bit more prominent in my brain as well. Okay, so now we're in October. Now, my theme for October. Okay, here comes the long explanation about how this came about. But also, I think it's an interesting explanation about how the creative process sometimes works for someone. So I've decided I'll sit down and sort of go through some of this and where it came from and what it is. So the theme itself is effectively things in jars, but it's sort of turned into a little bit of a witchy theme because it is October and we have Halloween in October. So there's a little bit of witchiness added into it for those bits and pieces that aren't jars. And I'll explain how this all happened. So I don't know why, but about 6 weeks ago, I started drawing jars. I don't know. I saw them somewhere and went, oh, jars look interesting. Let's draw jars. And then when you draw jars, you have to put things in jars. And so jars are interesting in themselves because jars and a little bit of bottles come in all sort of different shapes and sizes. And they've got a little bit of reflective element to them because they're glass. And I just quite like them. So I started drawing them, and this sort of hatching I started doing, and, even drawing some foodstuffs like olives and those sorts of things in them as well. Had a few jams and a few different bits and pieces. Now, if you follow me on Instagram, you will see some of the playing I did with this as I was going through and coming up with the concept and how it's expanded and grown. So as I was going through and doing this, I've also made a decision that I want to create an oracle card deck. So for those of you who were paying attention on my personal projects, that is one of my personal projects. Now, for all of those of you who don't know what an oracle card deck is, it's basically It's a little bit like tarot, but it's not tarot, because the idea is you're sort of choosing like one card to represent like the day or a particular activity that you're talking about. So it's not like layouts, and it's not like the major and minor arcana and everything else that you have in a tarot deck. They can just be very personalized, very specific things. And so as I started going through, this idea of things in jars led into a concept of, well, you could put other things in jars, because, you know, I started thinking a little bit witchy. And then I was thinking of, well, what would I have my oracle card deck be? And I'm thinking it will be things like characteristics, you know, like courage, bravery, strength, loved, calm, peaceful, joyous, those sorts of characteristics. And so I started thinking, well, how would I visualize that? What would I create? What would I make that be? And started playing around with that idea. And while I was playing around with the jars, I'm like, well, what sort of, you know, what symbolism would I use to reflect this sort of idea? And then it became, well, if I'm using this sort of symbolism for this, then they're nice little symbols, and some of those could become things in jars. Now, I don't know that they're going to be in jars for my oracle card deck. I will point out here, I haven't come up with that design yet. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to create a card deck, because it means I have a larger project where I really have to come up with, you know, a layout, typography, a style, a color palette, all of those sorts of things, and then stylistically create things that are sympathetic to each other in some way. So I thought it was a really interesting challenge to take on, to go through and do that. So that's the reason that it's a personal project. I will undoubtedly, if I'm going to go through all the heartache of doing it, put it out into the world. And so it may be something that you can actually purchase, but who the hell knows? You know, that might take a little bit longer to actually end up creating. But all of that came together into this concept. So this is what October is, and it is things in jars. So it's sort of not, it goes a little bit more than that, but that's how I think about it in my head. And I'm really loving this idea. I'm sure you can tell that a little bit by how I'm rambling about it, but sort of also how enthusiastic I am about it. If you are a person who creates, draw things in jars. Jars are great. Like, it really is this really fascinating motif, like concept, where you can put anything in a jar, you know, and it can mean all sorts of different things. And, you know, it's just interesting, and it's very broad, and I've found it very stimulating for my creative sort of side. And that's great, because I haven't had anything that's sort of really done that for a little while. So I'm really enjoying it. Really enjoying putting things in jars. Okay, look, I can probably wax lyrical about this for a long time, but it is good fun. And like you've got here, so I've got there like a light bulb in a jar. Light bulbs are curiosity. Okay, a sword is strength. Feathers are freedom. So I've got a few concepts in here, but then I've just got some jars that are just like, there's a triangular jar there on the second shelf up that has jam in it. Like, you know, it's nothing special. So I decided to have like some plain things alongside concept things and everything, which I quite enjoy as an idea too. Now, because I've been playing with these on watercolour paper, you'll find as I go through here, I sometimes forget that I'm back in my Archer and Olive journal, which means that I do have to be aware of how much water and colour I'm putting on, or else it will bleed through to the next page. And you'll see as you go through and watch this that there's a lot of bleeding. I don't think I've got a single page that doesn't bleed through in some way to the next one. And that's just a thing that happens. It's one of the limitations of them. They're fantastic, and they do take a lot of abuse. Like, I do get a fair amount of colour and water on there before they will bleed. But they do bleed and warp a little bit when I'm playing with watercolour, in sort of a way that I'm really being very intentional and sort of wanting to get a decent amount of colour down and everything else. So that's basically where the concept of all of this came from, and how it's been created. So I thought I would share that with you, just because, I mean, you know, why not let you into my rambling brain and you can see what it's actually like in here. Trust me, I'm only telling you the good things. But I think it's also interesting, for me as a creative person, I always find it interesting how other people come up with things. So yeah, I thought I would share that as well and see how we go. Yeah, so this concept is probably going to be something I'm going to play around with a bit more, and it will lead in some way in the oracle cards, but then it might be in something else, because it's going to appear in my calendar. So I'm another thing that's not on my personal projects. I've decided I'm going to create a calendar for 2024. So hopefully I will have that sorted for November, and I can share that with you. And you can see what it is. Basically, I'm doing postcard size month on a card desk calendar. That's what I've decided to create. And I'm using some of the imagery from themes that I've previously done in my bullet journals. So, you know, trees and flowers and robots and houses and different bits and pieces, and doing a different sort of idea for each month. But yes, I've just sort of created like the layout, and I will be hopefully starting tomorrow in sort of creating some of the imagery and going through and doing that. So I'm quite excited about that, because I haven't sort of put something creatively out into the world for people to be able to buy for a while now. And yeah, it's daunting. It's always daunting to go, hey, I made a thing. Would you be willing to give me money for it? It's very weird. So this is a whole different thing. Like putting something out for free there's such a lack of pressure. It doesn't provoke my perfectionism. It doesn't provoke my imposter syndrome. It's not as vulnerable as me putting something out in the world and saying, hey, is anyone willing to pay me for this? And yeah, it's a whole different level of stuff. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah, so look, I'm having an interesting time at the end of September heading into October. We'll see what it all looks like. Anyway, so they will make an appearance there, but I'm not quite sure how else they're going to appear. I'm not entirely sure what will happen from here with all of that creativity and everything else. But anyway. So my lyrics this month is from The World is Stone by Cyndi Lauper. And it's such a stunning song. So it's stone, the world is stone, but I saw it once with the stars in my eyes, when each colour rang out in a thunderous chrome. It's no trick of the light. I can't find my way home in a world of stone. And this is a stunning, like it's a gorgeous song. If you've never heard Cyndi Lauper sing this and you only think of girls just want to have fun or time after time, when you think about her and her voice, please go and listen to this. It is revolutionary to hear it. Her voice is just the most stunning thing. So please go and listen to it if you've never heard it, or if you haven't heard it in a while, go back and refresh. It's very, all the feels provoking. It's just stunning. So yes, that is this month's set of lyrics. So yeah, back to the jar stuff. I know I'm being a little bit extra, but anyway, I actually did have a thought around all of this when I was starting to record this video, which is I haven't done a freebie for my website subscribers for a while. So previously, there's a freebie where you can download and like cut out and assemble the pop-up of the mushrooms that I did, for example. Or I've got just freebies around like the watercolour trees and some flowers and that I've done in previous bullet journals. And so I was actually going to sort of say, and this will see how many of you actually listen to this, of whether you're interested in me doing a page of of jars for you to then be able to create things in, but also sort of see a little bit up close how they're put together and everything else, so you can draw your own jars. So if it is something that you would like, then please leave a comment and let me know. I'm more than happy to do that, and we can play with that. And since I'm talking about subscribing then, subscribing is going to my website, which is kyliedunn.com, and you can sign up. Trust me, I will not spam you, because if I do send you 4 emails a year, you'd be very lucky. But you can get access to a whole heap of freebies, not only some of these art downloads, but also I did this thing called my Year of TED, where I took TED Talks and turned them into 30-day activities and experimented with my life for a year. And I've created a heap of sort of a little bit of like self-development type resources out of that. So worksheets and workbooks and little videos and some bits and pieces. You also get access to all of that stuff. So if you are interested, go and subscribe and you can get all of that for free. Now, on to the weekly layouts. As I mentioned, I found the new future logs when I was looking for a new weekly layout for my bullet journal, and I came up with this one. I saw this one in a page and thought, I actually quite like that it's all, like, it doesn't feel structured. It is structured, it's very structured, but it sort of doesn't feel that structured. And so I thought, you know, I quite like that, and I like that it gives me a couple of little places to draw some smaller motifs and patterns and things, but it's not like as big a section as I sort of have on the other layouts. So if you sort of haven't seen previous videos, I normally have my tasks on the left-hand side, and then I have on the right-hand side the days of the week where I put my appointments and any key deadlines, and then I fill in like a little bit of a short, 2-sentence journal entry for that day of what happened, how I feel about it, those sorts of things. And so there's that normally happens in my bullet journal. But I wanted to sort of switch it up a bit. It's not that that's not working. It's just that one of the ways that I keep myself interested in using my bullet journal is by constantly changing and keeping it a little bit interesting for me and trying new things and seeing if they might work a little bit better than the one that I was using, the method I was using before. So I've come up with this sort of structure, which I really quite like. I like it as an idea of having these little boxes. I've got a notes section back, which I haven't had a notes section in my bullet journal for quite a while now. And yeah, my only concern is that potentially the day pages are not big enough for me to be doing those reflections. But then I can be notoriously quite bad at doing that on a daily basis. So potentially the notes section could become a weekly type reflection. And yeah, we can take it from there and see how it goes. But yeah, a new layout to try. I'll let you know how it all goes at the end of October when I'm drawing up November. Let you know sort of whether it was successful or whether we're going back to the way it was. Who knows? It's all a bit of it's all just experimenting and playing with things. It's my bullet journal. I get to do whatever I want in it. And so, I feel like changing it up. That's what I'm doing. So this is basically like I said, a little bit more of the witchiness out of this theme. I actually really like the fire. I know that fire isn't in a cauldron, it's under a cauldron, but just leave it be, okay? And yeah, it's been a really interesting sort of motif to play with, and particularly things in jars. Things in jars, things in jars. So that's probably about all from me. I think I've definitely spoken for long enough for this month. I hope that your September has gone well. I hope that October is looking interesting and engaging and as calm or busy as you would like it to be. And I hope to see you back here again at the end of October for drawing up of November. And I mean, I don't think I'm going to find another theme I'm as excited about as things in jars for a while, but hey, who knows? We'll see what we end up with, and I'll see what else I have to share then as well. So I'll chuck a little bit of music on for the rest of this, but by all means, let me know if you would like a page of jars and bottles to put stuff in. Feel free to go and subscribe to my website if you are interested in that. And I hope you enjoyed this month's layout. Thanks. Bye.